Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all around the world. I'm your friendly neighborhood philosopher, D. Wood, and with me now is the man they call low-class cologne. That is one of your that is one of your many names, isn't it?
Yeah, no jabs, vocrap.
Low class cologne. Low class cologne is funny.
There's one that has scab in there somewhere.
Yeah, I know that one because that was actually interesting because when I thought, how would I make fun of his name? Like that's the one I came up with, and you said, yeah, they already used that one, because I have a knack for, like, Marie or someone else will suggest baby names, and I'm like, no, people are gonna call him this. Like, we named our first son, we named Lucian. And at first she was like, how about Lucius? And I'm like, nope, they're going to call him Luscious, Bubble Luscious, right? So I'll just go on the names they're going to call him. But we eventually met a dude named Lucius, and she said, what did they call you when you were a kid? And he goes, oh, Luscious, Bubble Luscious, blah, blah, blah. And so, got a knack for that. So, yeah. So how you been doing? But before we get started on Mormonism, can't go too long on this but we haven't really talked demonetization. What happened there?
You know, we all knew it could happen to any of us, but I just thought I would basically have a warning. You know, they used to be in the mines back in the day, and they would have a canary. And what's the story? Like, if the canary starts running out of oxygen, I forget. You know the thing, right? It's like a West Virginia thing or something. The canary warns them the oxygen levels are low or something.
Yeah,
like
you
that,
lower
right?
you lower that thing down in the coal mine, and if you pull it up and it's dead, then there's no oxygen down there.
I thought you were going to be my canary, Dave. I thought you or Sam or somebody would have got demonetized first, and I would be like, all right, what do I need to do?
Got to pull back. Got to dial it back.
Out of everybody, I didn't think I was going to be the first guy, but here I am.
Hey, you know, it's funny because I used to think of other people as you know, the canaries in the coal mine. Like, people say, David, all these people threatening you, someone's gonna kill you. And I'm like, they wouldn't kill me. They're gonna kill that dude first.
Robert Spencer.
So as long as that dude's alive, as long as Pamela Geller's alive, I'm good to go. And then and then one day I was on Twitter, and it was when I was looking for Muhammad Hijab stuff, when we were going through the things he was saying about people's wives and stuff like that. And I saw he had retweeted something from Fareed Responds, and Fareed Responds was saying, and the most infamous Islamophobe in the world. And I'm like, oh, who is this? And I clicked on it, and it was talking about me. And so I'm like, wait a minute, now I'm the world's most infamous Islamophobe. And this is before I was eating the Quran and drilling holes in because before any of that. So they already consider me that. And so, yeah, if I'm the most infamous Islamophobe in the world, according to these guys, then I should be the canary for everyone else. But I should be the canary for you, because that means people are coming after me most to get me demonetized. And then you're minding your own business, talking about some Hebrew Israelite stuff, and they demonetize you.
Yeah. Exactly. But you know what? I'm glad to be the sacrificial lamb. I can handle it. I've got a daytime job, and I just slug in some more hours, and it is what it is. So no, but seriously, so that means no ads. Now only about probably half of videos did ads, but it adds up little by little. Everything adds up, you know, when you're struggling.
I know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
If you got some channel members over here, you get some super chats over here. You got some, some videos remain monetized from a long time ago. People still watch them and stuff like that. All that stuff, it adds up. And then,
so I had those three things: channel memberships, super chats again. Channel memberships, super chats, and now when I go live, which I do less now, but when I go live, we do a thing where people can give through Streamlabs, and it goes directly to PayPal. Actually, it's a lower percentage it's taken out than what Google did, but you do have to take an extra step to do it. And so, not as many people know that, but we do have some workarounds. And of course, people have increased on Patreon and Subscribestar and things like that. But at the end of the day, it is a legitimate change in what I'm able to do. So I'm not able to hire an editor anymore. I was able to do some pretty epic videos, partially through working with more professional editors. I can't do that right now. Now, thank you, David. You helped me out for a couple months, and that's good. But the couple months are kind of up, so we'll see what happens. I'm not going to be on the street, but it just changes your rhythm and your flow and what you can and can't do. But we all knew it could happen, so we just adjust to keep on going.
I got you, man. I got you.
Okay.
See, look. Here's what's funny. So H. Adamson said, "What's demonetized mean?" Well, H. Adamson, if you're on YouTube for a while, you can apply to be monetized, and that means people can send you super chats, people can send you, people can sign up as channel members, you can get ad revenue, and so on. And because we deal with controversial subjects, we have we don't get much from like ad revenue and stuff like that. But people do contribute channel memberships, super chats and stuff like that. And if you do a lot of live streams and stuff like that, that becomes an important part of your revenue for the month, and it frees up your time to focus a lot on doing things on YouTube and so on. And so when you get demonetized, YouTube just says, nope, too late. All of that is canceled. And all of a sudden, wait a minute. If your vocab was like, wait a minute, I was kind of depending on that to, now I have to do other stuff to make up that difference. I've been flashing cash because, was it last month? Something like that. A while back, a bunch of the Muslim apologists on YouTube and Twitter started a campaign to get me demonetized from Patreon, and when people found out about it, I got like 250 new patrons. So that's why I've been flashing cash and so on, and that's why I can help vocab out and stuff like that when he's struggling some. But here's what's interesting. But I also started getting messages saying like, "Hey David, since you got 250 new patrons, do you mind if I support someone else on Patreon?" And I gotta say no. I don't mind, right? So that's totally fine if you know someone else, because guess what? I'm not struggling. I'm not struggling. So yes, if you're supporting me on Patreon and stuff like that, and you know someone or this, there are people who say, hey, I could give it to my church instead, because churches are having a lot of trouble because there's not a lot of attendance during COVID and stuff like that. So yeah, those are all the issues that are involved here. So we're hoping vocab gets remonetized on YouTube. In the meantime, the link to his Patreon I put in the description box. So if you want to, and keep in mind, vocab does some crazy stuff. Without vocab, there was no Islamicize Me. Without vocab, there was no Muhammad's Boom Boom Room. And this is the guy who's dealing with the Hebrew Israelites in the world. I mean, there are multiple people, but this is kind of the guy. They've said this guy is the one we're going after once we go on a killing spree. He's the one we're going after. So lots of good reasons to support vocab. All right.
My favorite quote on that is the guy who says, "In the kingdom, we're gonna pass vocab's bones around."
Nice.
And a guy says, "I got first dibs," and a guy says, "No, that's not fair. The elder of our camp should get first dibs. You go next after he's done playing with them." It's just so weird.
Well, it's cool if GMS is right, because I'll be one of them.
Yes, because you can beatbox.
Yeah.
You might be an Israelite, David Wood. David Wood's cool.
GMS, they think I might be one of them. And so I'll be, I'll be with them passing vocab's dead bones around.
Yeah. That was one of the times you were genuinely. David's not really a person who's like surprised that much, but I think you were genuinely surprised. Even though I said, David, these guys are gonna like you, and I bet they're gonna say you could be one of them. And he's just and I don't think he thought I was serious. And then they said it, and the way he turned over and looked at me, and I was like, I'm Israel in a split second out in Harlem, but I think David's genuinely chuckling because I think he's legitimately surprised right now. It was a funny moment. It was a magical moment in apologetics for sure.
That was pretty cool. I know I have lots of people on YouTube who like me, but I'm used to having people really, really not like me and want me dead. So I'm showing up with Vocab Malone. I thought I was in all kinds of trouble, and they're like, "Brother Wood, yes, we can't wait to embrace you. You can take over the leadership."
Yeah, you're like, "Hey, I'm not the most hated guy in the room all of a sudden. I like this."
Yeah, that's how they win people.
Anyways,
all right.
But lately I've been doing stuff on Mormonism.
Mormonism. Yeah, no, what's up with that? Because I'm out here East Coast, and I don't even really see Mormons anymore, man.
Right.
Haven't had a Mormon knock on the door in probably 16, 17 years, something like that. It's been a long time. Used to see them on bikes and so on. Now don't even see them. And so when someone says, "Hey, I got to respond to Mormonism," it's kind of like, "Wait, what? Mormonism?" But it seems like something. It seems like something that the further west you go, the more important it becomes, because the more Mormons you have out west. Is that about right?
That is right, but a lot of people don't realize in 2020 that Mormonism is a global religion. They have been plugging away with missionaries all over the world. Granted, they have some places more successful, some place less. Very successful in the Pacific Islands. So when you go to Utah, there is a very significant amount of transplants from various, like, for example, Samoa, because they've had great success there. And so a lot of those folks come there and live and whatnot. They've had good success, decent success in some of the other parts of the world. In fact, if you go to like the main Salt Lake City temple, and you can't go in without a temple recommend, but there's places you can go, and they do tours. So I signed up for a tour, and I went, and I noticed they went out of their way to showcase the diversity of the LDS organization with the people who are guiding the tours. So you would have a gal from Africa, you would have a gal from Scotland or something like that. You would have a number of Islander folks here or there. You know what I mean? So a lot of people I don't think know that. So I'll sometimes, like in my debate last night with Kwaku, he said, imagine you're going into a room and it's all white. And he was trying to talk about abstract objects with me. I was like, what is this, a Mormon meeting? A room with all white? So I'll still make a joke like that. But the fact is, they're a global organization now, and a lot more diverse than a lot of people realized. And so Mormonism is significant, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. And the reason I'm dealing with it now is actually because of my demonetization. What happened is I said, well, I'm going to go live less and try to be more strategic with videos. And another thing I'm going to do is say yes to going on other platforms more, because I really had to take care of my own stuff, so I wouldn't be on platforms as much. So, David, I was saying no to almost all the debates I was getting. Mm-hmm. Now I've been saying yes to debates, and I've been going on the platform. So it actually directly relates to demonetization. So there's a good side out of it, but, the support's still not there. But nonetheless, that's why I did the debate with Kwaku last night. It's because of that.
Yeah. And on what you were saying about this being global now, one of the probably the only times I saw Mormons in the New York City area was actually pretty cool. This was I used to when I was at Fordham, there were a group of students that met at Columbia University from the various universities in the area who were all interested in the problem of evil. So there were some students from Columbia University, there was me from Fordham, there was a couple of people from City University in New York and so on. And so I would take the 2 train down to Harlem, and then I would walk down Martin Luther King, and if you follow that, you'll eventually get to Columbia University once you get out of Harlem. And so I went down to the meeting, and then I was walking back, and I got till I was right about at the intersection of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And there's this group of, they look like 18, 19-year-old Mormon missionaries in the middle of a crowd, everyone, Hebrew Israelites, everyone there. And there's like probably, I want to say 7 or 8 Mormon missionaries in there. And I'm just standing there, and see, this is before I had a camera phone, because, back in this would have been awesome for YouTube, right? Mormon missionaries in Harlem, right? I don't know why they weren't recording that. That'd have been cool. But yeah, it was Mormon missionaries in Harlem, right there about the corner of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And I got into a discussion with one of them for about an hour, but he was telling me they're training to go over to the Middle East. So these guys were training Now, they weren't going to Saudi Arabia. They were going to some place like Lebanon or something like that. So
Right,
it's
yeah, that
so
makes sense.
a little more laid back. But yeah, these guys were. It's almost like they're saying, okay, you can't just go straight into the Middle East. Let's go to Harlem, deal with some Hebrew Israelites and all this stuff, and that'll toughen us up a little bit, and then we head over to the Middle East. But yeah, they were saying we want to go reach Muslims.
Yeah, see, because of the emphasis on global missions for the LDS organization, they get a lot of people who can teach languages. Now, there's sort of a stereotype of your average missionary doesn't actually really learn much of the language. He kind of is just thrown into the culture. But they get a crash course, and it's like with anything. It sticks with some people, and what happens is they end up getting teachers. So they have a lot of people in their organization who have facility with languages, and they have a whole kind of a nice, clean system. You go to a certain place to get the gear and the different things you're going to need to go on your mission. You meet up with certain people who are in charge of where you're going to go, and it's kind of like the Army in the sense of the Army has a system and they have reasons, but a lot of it depends on who's in charge, meaning they don't always make the perfect decision. But there's a high level of competence in the LDS organization that, again, I don't know if people realize. There's a high level of competence in the organization. You have a lot of people who are serious about it, and these folks get used to failure. These guys, the missionaries I'm speaking of, they have to learn how to be tough. And yes, it's true. You'll find stories of guys losing their faith in the mission and things like that. And but I think those are sort of exaggerated, to be honest with you. And it's a slow crawl because also the LDS religion, even though it's global now in its reach, it's still very American-based. Joseph Smith said that Zion was in Independence, Missouri. Salt Lake City is clearly of massive importance to them. And they've had trouble, when they were building temples in the 70s in Brazil. They didn't allow any people of African descent to hold the priesthood, so no one could operate the temple in Brazil. So in 1978, they freed that up where they changed that, where you could have African blood, so-called, and still be able to be a priest. So they've had to overcome some of those hurdles and deal with some of those issues. But nonetheless, I just think people kind of sleep on LDS because there also are some current problems in the church. That's true as well. There's liberalizing tendencies and other problems. But, we can never count these groups and these organizations out. And I think it's very important to remember. And if you have a friend or a family member in it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I learned this really when I moved to Arizona. I got a baptism by fire. I didn't have as much experience out there, in Ohio. But Here we go.
Yeah. And so, some people have mentioned, and this is kind of true, right? Some people have mentioned, but Mormons are really pretty nice guys, and you and I were mentioning right before we started, how they're awesome at skits, man. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're significantly better than Saturday Night Live. We're saying that because we're interested in skits, right? We do skits, so we kind of look to people who do a good job making skits and think, oh, hey, what did they do there? How did they come up with that idea and stuff like that? But Studio C is a Mormon skit. What do they call them? Troop, I guess. Mormon.
They have multiple YouTube channels that are pretty successful.
Yeah, guys, do you remember? I don't know if you've seen them, but man, we should have pulled up some clips. That would have been hilarious. But the guy who does Scott Sterling, where he always blocks the ball with his face, whether it's volleyball or soccer or something like that.
Again.
No, those guys are funny. So, and it's cool because it's nice, clean humor. You know what I mean? Mormons come with that nice, clean humor, and yet here we have Vocab Malone picking on Mormons. Why would you pick on Mormons, even though they're super nice and they're not violently subjugating anyone, unlike certain other ideologies, and their humor is nice and clean. They're not calling people names and threatening them with death and so on. So what's your problem, dude?
My kids actually like Studio C. I remember when I first realized it was a Mormon thing. There's also the other one. I think it's called like Dry Bar Comedy. I forget what it's called. It's another one that's a clean comedy channel. It's also Mormon owned and operated. Scott Sterling, I was watching a production about Joseph Smith being a prophet. It was a production put on by the LDS organization. And I look over to the side and I see this character and I'm like, wait, what? And it's Scott Sterling. I mean, it's not really him, but it's the guy who's Scott Sterling in Studio C is playing one of these characters in this movie about Joseph Smith's life. I was like,
that yo, no joke. It would have been hilarious if like there's some point where Joseph Smith throws something and it just hits him in the face. The young people would have lost their minds. But
that would be a total Easter egg.
Well, now it's messed up. Now I'm watching Studio C and I'm thinking, wow, look at these guys and their awesome skits. But you're telling me that's just acting preparation so they can go on and make movies about Joseph Smith.
Well, I don't know what it is, David. Mormons. Now, first of all, every time we say Mormon, we're using outdated language. They had an official proclamation recently about the name, and they said, "Look, stop using the name Mormon, and just only refer to us as the Latter-day Saints. We are LDS." Da 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 da. And so there are some Mormons who have even embraced calling themselves Mormons, so they've had to readjust. Like, I think there's a website, Mormon.org. There's a famous YouTube channel, well-known, called 3 Mormons. They're trying to work out all the details,
That's kind of rough, though, right? Because if you don't agree with them, it's like when newspapers call Muhammad the Prophet Muhammad, even though you don't believe he's a prophet, but you're calling him that because that's what people insist that he should be called. If you call someone hey, you're a Latter-day Saint, I understand, that's the name, that's a title for a person in the group now, but it's kind of like you're calling them a Latter-day Saint and saying, therefore, I agree that you are this saint who's coming along in the latter time. So that is, whereas with Mormons, you don't have that. If you want to be called a Mormon,
right.
You can be called a Mormon, right?
That's part of the struggle I have. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them, but I also have trouble calling them saints in that official kind of sense. That's why I feel a little bit safer if I abbreviate it, LDS. And if you notice in my own language, I try to say the LDS organization. Mm-hmm. When I've been speaking here today to you, I try to avoid calling them a church, frankly, and so because I don't view as a true church. Now, with me, everything is very contextual. The reason why I deal with Hebrew Israelites is because they kept on popping up in my corner and running into churches in my neighborhoods. Same thing with Mormonism. To me, all this stuff is fascinating, interesting, and matters because it affects people's real lives. But it's a little more theoretical until you have them on your doorstep or out in the parking lot or your friends at college and things like that. Well, when I came to Arizona, that's exactly what happened. And so I lived in the East Valley for quite a while, and I know that doesn't mean anything to people who aren't from here, but certain parts of Phoenix are more heavily concentrated with LDS stakes and wards and heavier concentrations of LDS people. And the East Valley is one of those places. So when I say they're everywhere, all over, I really mean they're everywhere, all over. I remember a speech class I had at a community college I was attending, where they teach you how to give speeches and all that kind of thing. And in the beginning of class, people introduce themselves, and I think half the class said they were members of the LDS church, is the way they put it. I was like, about half this class thought that it said they were LDS, and this is at a normal secular college I was at. So it's everywhere. So that's how I really got into it. And if you notice, even the people that I put up on the thumbnail there, David, mm-hmm. all those people are people I've interacted with in some way, who are at some level well-known Mormons.
Yeah, I don't know any of those people.
Right. So this is a whole thing. Now I'm looking at the comment section. I'm not gonna get too distracted by it, but let me just say I understand there's like 1,000 people watching right now almost. Mm-hmm. But there is a lot of you guys in the comment section, and I don't assume for a second everyone's a Christian. So I don't know who is watching or who's making what comments. But let me just say this: a lot of you people making comments, I can tell, literally have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to Mormonism. And a lot of you are just simply insulting them and slinging invective. And I saw one guy say, well, they're dying anyway. Why waste your time? Let me tell you something. First of all, souls are at stake. And we're talking an organization that's still 12 million plus strong, okay? It depends what you look in the numbers and this and that. But we're talking families. And if you live in the Southwest, these are people you care about. You don't have to live in the Southwest, but certain parts of the country is my point. And so why waste your time? Because these are people. We care about them. And a lot of times their dedication and allegiance is to this thing they call a church and to this guy they call a prophet. And so we gotta be contextual. We gotta be missionaries, you know. So to a lot of you on here, just chill. And look, the old just merely making fun of Mormons. Now I'll go in the trenches, like with Kwaku. You know, he's made some jokes. I made some jokes back, but ultimately I'm trying to have a substantive debate with him. You know what I mean? But look, the old thing of just making fun of Mormons is not going to work to really dislodge them from their theology or to really get at the root of the issues. So I just would rather some of you guys just listen, because a lot of you don't know what's going on. Mormons a lot of times beat the stereotypes that a lot of people have of them. As a general rule, Mormons are tech savvy. In fact, Salt Lake City has become such a prosperous economic place. It's created a problem for the LDS organization, because you have all these people from other sectors and sometimes what's called like the information sector or the information industry, you know, that deal with tech and all that. And they're moving to the valley. Salt Lake City is also a valley like Phoenix. They're moving there, but they don't have Mormon attachments. They don't have LDS commitments. So you have all these people moving there to be employed or to be employers, open up a business, whatever it is. And so Salt Lake City itself is actually dealing with somewhat of a problem of kind of a mild secularization. Now, when you watch the news, if you're in Salt Lake City, it's still clear that there's a very tight relationship they have with the LDS organization. But there is a real secularization, and there's even a whole bizarre subculture in Salt Lake City a lot of people aren't aware of. Back in the day, there's a punk kind of skating subculture. There's a whole skating subculture, and a lot of people are not aware there is a big LGBTQA plus massive subculture in Salt Lake City now as well. So there's a lot of stereotypes I think we need to break about various things. A lot of people say kind of the center of LDS thought and power these days more so is more in Provo, where BYU, Brigham Young University, is located. I think there's some truth, some reality to that. But when you go to Salt Lake City, it's a little bit maybe like Paris with France. And so right now I'm just talking about Mormon culture, in case you wonder where we're going with this. I'm talking about Mormon culture a little bit. What I mean by that is if you go to France, the French are actually beat a lot of the stereotypes that we have of them. And there's a lot of great French people, and there's some excellent things about the culture. The Parisians, those in Paris, are sort of they embody the negative stereotypes of France, though. But the funny thing is, you learn a lot of people in France don't like people in Paris, and a lot of people in Paris don't like the rest of France. This is what I found when I went there, because I went there to do a Muslim outreach program. And so Salt Lake City is a little bit like that. When you go to Salt Lake City, you find all these like Hollywood superstar Mormons. They walk around with their name badges and their rock star glasses with these struts and strides, and they won't give you the time of day. There's a level of cockiness and aggression sort of in the culture that's a little bit different than a lot of other places with LDS culture. This is a little bit anecdotal, I know, but in other places it's different. And so even the kind of Mormon you are, to a certain extent, actually has to do a little bit of kind of where you come, what community you come from. Because there's also the more rural areas of Utah, and that's a whole nother situation. There's Arizona, which is different. There's the Idaho folks. That's a little bit different. So there's a lot of differences here, and I don't know if people realize how much has changed in Mormonism, yet there's still a lot that has stayed the same. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, Mormons make great neighbors. It's a stereotype. I think that's true.
Hang on. Who would you rather have as your neighbor? Mormon missionary or ISIS?
A Mormon missionary. Mormon missionaries are paint
there
your
you got
fence,
it, ladies and gentlemen.
Carry your groceries.
That's your proof.
Rake your leaves. I don't want to say what ISIS is going to do. Now, I will say a little something like this. I would love to have the average Mormon be my neighbor. I would not want Joseph Smith as my neighbor, though.
That's true.
This
Yeah, that
dude
dude
would
was out there.
send. This is no joke. This dude would send men out on mission trips, and when they were gone, propose to their wives. This is true facts. He did this. It caused a lot of problems actually, because the guys get back and they're like, "Hey, bro," he would really do this. So Mormons are great neighbors. Joseph Smith, I'm not sure if he would make such a great neighbor.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings here, but that's one of the reasons we have to have Joseph Smith meet Muhammad in the Boom Boom Room.
Yeah, I think you could make a good Joseph Smith. You have to shave
And
some facial hair and whatnot, but you could do it.
yeah, I have to shave my face down, and now I haven't really studied Mormonism at all. I studied a little bit back when I was, studying apologetics in general and so on. But didn't that dude go out gunslinging? Like, didn't they lock him up and then he got some guns and then he went out gunslinging and so on?
Yes, it's a little bit complicated because it's a strange mixture of factors. So check this out. One of the guys that Joseph Smith proposed to his wife when he was out and about came back and was heated. And this is a guy who'd moved all the way from Scotland to be part of this organization. And he was a man of means, so he gave a lot of his money to the early days of his name was William Law, I believe.
Cool,
he was
name.
not so happy when he came back. And so he left, and he basically started his own thing. And he started, I think it was called the Informant, started a newspaper. And he was saying, "Hey, yo, Joseph Smith is shady," and started printing news stories about Joseph Smith being shady. Joseph Smith, now, it's kind of like the Godfather, it's hard to touch the guy at the top, but people who were affiliated with the LDS organization went and wrecked shop, destroyed the printing press and everything. They didn't want to allow free press. They destroyed it. They suppressed it. This all created a problem. Plus, the LDS folks at the time in Missouri were telling their neighbors, "We're going to own this land. You're farming it now, but this is going to be ours." And the reason they did that is because Joseph Smith said, "Jesus is coming back down here. This is Zion." So in Independence, there's a place where they were still supposed to build a temple so Jesus could come back. So they had this very kind of almost colonialist attitude towards the frontier people there. This created a problem. Plus, Joseph Smith was able to raise an army of 5,000 men. That is a massive militia in those days in the United States, because the army size of the United States, my understanding at that time, was only 15,000. And yet he's got an army of 5,000. He had enough power that he actually ran for president. He went and met with Martin Van Buren. Van Buren didn't really address his grievance properly. So I'm going to run for president. So what happened is, though, with all this going on, they came and they got Joseph Smith and locked him up. And there was a series of unfortunate things that happened. Some of the settlers did basically massacre some Mormons. It was a tragic thing. They killed women and children. I forget the name of the place. It's something Hill. I forget, but I know it's Hill is in there. There's monuments to it to this day and whatnot. So there was sort of a back and forth. Now, when you watch a Mormon documentary talking about this, they make it seem like they were just the nicest people getting persecuted everywhere. They leave out what they were doing, like, wrecking people's printing presses, telling them we're going to own this land, having massive militias, taking dudes' wives.
No,
I just
wanted to toss this in there because I'm sure a lot of people watch this channel are thinking the same thing. This sounds a lot like, when Muhammad was in Mecca, and he's already early on, once people started getting upset about him for making fun of their gods, he was already talking about raising and building an army and forcing everyone to submit to him. Then eventually they start persecuting him and so on. And he tells them, "I bring you slaughter," right? He announces that in Mecca, "I bring you slaughter," right? So then they really get mad, and they have to leave. And if you ask Muslims to this day what happened, Muslims were just minding their own business, living peaceful lives when the evil people forced them out. Then he goes to Medina. He's going around telling his followers, I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave anyone except Muslims, right? So he said, we're taking all of this from Muslims. Everyone else has to go or die. You got to convert, you got to get out, or you got to die. But if you were at all, if you resisted this at all, if you said, no, I don't want to do that, I reject you and I will stand against you. Well, you're a hate monger, you're a bigot. And to this day, Muslims, what happened? Muhammad's minding his own business, living a life of perfect peace and tolerance, and everyone attacked him for no reason. So it seems like, not to the same extent, but it seems like a similar idea of modern people looking back at that saying, look at the persecution against us, when, you guys, there's some reasons people didn't like you.
Yeah, and so there are some similarities. So Joseph Smith sometimes has been called the American Muhammad. Obviously, it's not identical, but there are similarities. Now, I need everyone to understand this. I'm talking about this because I don't like how a lot of LDS folks whitewash their history. However, we must recognize differences. LDS theology has never been textually based. Now, they have a Book of Mormon. Yes, but it's not the level of importance as the Quran or a Bible. It just isn't. Now, that's what they'll give you. But I brought this out to an extent in the debate. A lot of what is practiced and done within modern-day Mormonism is actually just from subsequent revelation. They believe they have a head apostle, and this role or office has been passed down by the literal laying on hands of those before him, and that he receives revelation from God, and he can literally basically write modern scripture. Because of that, there have been significant changes in the LDS organization. And because Joseph Smith set the organization up as an organization based upon essentially, and I'm not trying to say this pejoratively, his dreams and visions and revelations, that has been built into the fabric. So they have a natural mechanism whereby to have legitimate substantial change occur. They're not looking at the Hadith in the same way that Salafi scholars are. It is just not the same. So when I speak about the past, I co-sign that as really happening, and I don't like the whitewashing. However, we must make sure we understand the difference between what is happening and now in 2020 between that. But there was a thing called the Danites, to your point, David. And these Danites were formed in the 1830s, and they were a big part of something called the 1838 Mormon War. There was this vigilante group, and they would deal with dissenters, and they were pretty evil. And Joseph Smith used to be a pacifist, but in August 1833, listen to what he said. And now verily I say unto you, concerning the laws of the land, it is my will that my people should observe all things whatsoever I command them. And that law of the land, which is constitutional, supporting the principle of freedom and maintaining rights and privileges, belongs to all mankind and is justifiable before me. Therefore, I, the Lord, justify you and your brethren of my church in befriending that law, which is the constitutional law of the land, and the law of man, whatsoever is more or less than this cometh of evil. And they used to, in this same thing, and you can read it right now in the Doctrine and Covenants 98:23, they encourage church members to bear this patiently and revile not. Basically, you had this thing where the pacifism was coming to an end after that. And he took the title of general. They started their own bank. Now, again, some of this was because of persecution, but some of the persecution was because the way they essentially acted. So he did get put in a Carthage jail, and he was not done justice. There was no trial. There was nothing like that. It's not ever clear he did anything deserving of the death penalty. Okay, so it was not like that should have been what should have happened anyway. Even though there's a number of times they did try to kill him. One time it didn't work out. The guy didn't want to do the shooting squad. Long story. But the mob busted in, and I guess it was maybe a couple hundred people. And they did manage to smuggle Joseph Smith a little pistol, and so he did go out with a bang. But there's no way he was gonna be able to kill all those folks. And there's some eyewitness accounts. And now I don't get into conspiracy theory that there is some masonry involved in Mormonism and in the temple rituals. And it appears Joseph Smith saw some Masons he recognized in the crowd. And it appears one of the final things he did actually was give the Masonic symbol for help into the crowd. And so it's sort of a bizarre thing that you get the picture from the eyewitness accounts, at least some of them, that he's like falling out the window, giving Masonic signals to someone in the crowd doing the help symbol, because he got shot out the window and landed on the ground and was dead. But it was a travesty of justice ultimately. It's not how things should have been done. It wasn't right. They also murdered his brother. So, you know, regardless of what happened before, because they paint themselves as pure martyrs, that's not true. What happened to Joseph Smith was not right. But he did have a gun, and it appears he killed some people. At least one, I think maybe two. He killed some of them. Now, it was a mob trying to kill him, so, I mean, I would say it could be self-defense. But they'll just say he was a martyr, you know, but I don't know. I don't know. He was in there because he wrecked a printing press. This is not Jesus, you know what I'm saying? But if you really want to get, you know, more about this, look up the Danite Manifesto, folks. Look up the Avenging Angels. We're talking about guys who basically would wreck shop on Joseph Smith's enemies. So there's some strange segments in the history of the LDS organization. They're pretty bizarre. Now, again, a lot of that's really in the past. Yes, you can find little kind of leftovers, like people, I see them bringing up the FLDS. The FLDS have been disavowed. Not to say they're not relevant at all. In fact, I think with polygamy laws changing, I think the FLDS they'll be able to do their stuff out in the open eventually. But the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, yeah, they still believe in polygamy. They believe the mainstream church has gone off all that. But, you know, people mention Warren Jeffs. They're just not they're extreme and it's sensational, so it gets news attention, but they're not necessarily a very relevant or important part of the conversation, even though they do exist, and it is because of the history of what Joseph Smith did. So we do got to recognize that.
Here's all I'm saying. This is all I'm saying right here. If Joseph Smith was known for gunslinging when it was necessary, when he deemed it necessary, then all I'm saying is, if we got Joseph Smith in the boom boom room, and Muhammad holds up that detonator, he's ready. Joseph Smith realistically could just pull out a pistol, right? I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah. I saw the replica of the pistol he got, and it's like one of those funny little old curved wooden ones with a funny little. It just has a kind of a comical look to the modern eye. I forget what it was called, but he had one of those.
Was it a little Derringer?
I think it might have been actually, but we got to get a replica of one of those. we could have him shoot the thing out of Muhammad's hand.
That would be cool.
We could have Joseph Smith defeat. You know what would be really insane? What we did is if we had a battle of their wives.
Why don't we let our wives? Why don't we let our wives settle this in the octagon?
Yeah, I think you have to wonder who would win, because on one hand you want to say Joseph Smith because he had so many more wives than Muhammad. They'd be able to outnumber him, but I feel like the wives of Muhammad might be tough because they'd be so used to taking a punch. So, you know, I don't know who would. I think it could be.
You're messed up.
A close call, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
Of course, you're gonna get it.
I'm gonna steal that joke someday.
Yeah, of course you are. A white man steals everything. But so there's kind of the history. But look, another massive change that people have not recognized within, you know, back to kind of more being serious. I know some of my Mormon friends are going to be upset and mad at me right now. I understand that. I'm sorry, guys. Look, here's the real deal, though. LDS scholarship is a real thing. And let me tell you something. These folks have never been anti-intellectual. They have a different stance and attitude than the Jehovah's Witnesses, for example. And so because of that, they have sent their men and women, which mainly men, out. And they don't only go to BYU, David. They're going all over. They're going to Duke. They are getting degrees in Semitic languages. They are learning the background of Egypt. They're learning the background of ancient Near Eastern cultures. This has become a specialization of some of these folks. The reason is to be able to have facility in working with available materials to do some apologetic work in regard to the Book of Mormon. So a lot of people, they just see a South Park episode and they basically think Mormons are dumb. Mormons have never been. Utah's known as the Beehive State, industrious, hardworking, overcome odds. People have this perception of them as kind of like weak or white or something. These are tough people who come out of a frontier background. You go to Utah, these dudes are in shape. You talk about some dudes with jump shots. Find me a Mormon missionary without a jump shot. There's a couple, but these dudes got jump shots, bro. I'm telling you. So I'm just trying to explain the mentality that I don't think a lot of people understand. There's a kind of a quiet reserve and a quiet resolve that I respect greatly. And sometimes people have this image of a softness. There is legit masculinity within a certain segment of the LDS culture, right? And they embrace that, and there's some of that as well. And you can see that sort of in their heroes that come out of the Book of Mormon. Well, these guys have went off and got real degrees. I see people, is it like Islamic apologetics? I would say it's now granted they haven't had as long to develop resources as the Islamic world, and that's real, and there's less of them. Okay. However, I would say their level of apologetics in 2020 is potentially more sophisticated than the average Islamic apologetic, and I don't think people realize that. There's a very fascinating paper, and shout out to D News. She kind of helped me do some cliff notes on this. It's called Mormon Scholarship, Apologetics, and Evangelical Neglect, Losing the Battle and Not Knowing It by Carl Mosser. Now, granted, this thing came out in the Trinity Journal in '98, but it still speaks to a reality. Kind of what happened is this. There was a time, maybe between, say, the 60s and the 80s, when countercult ministry was like hot and popping, right? Especially in the 80s. Churches were equipping people. It was when you talk about apologetics in relationship to LDS, the 80s is like the time. And a lot of the hard work that the Tanners have done, if you know anything about LDS apologetics, some of these names will make sense. If you don't, you just have to catch up later. The Tanners had done a lot of work in the 60s and 70s that really set the groundwork, maybe more so at the 70s. And what happened is the 80s was blossoming, blooming time, and they were really on their heels. They didn't have a lot of people in the fields and degrees. BYU wasn't at that level. They were hiding a lot of stuff. Well, what happens with the LDS folks is, by and large, now I'm not saying they've come clean about everything, they have decided to almost put almost everything online. They have stopped at a certain level, okay? I'm speaking in generalities. At a certain level, the LDS organization hides way less than they do now. They just decided, you know what, we're going to put all our old records online. We're going to put the high-res images of these old documents, regardless of what they say. We're just going to bite the bullet and put it online. Now, I'm not saying everything. I'm not saying there's no secrets. I'm not saying they don't whitewash things that have already, but by and large, they have literally, you can find archives of books and old Mormon movies, everything now put up by them. So they have changed their stance partially, and I think they realized the hiding it was a problem because people got on the internet. And so what they've done in response partially is they have developed a highly sophisticated level of apologetics. Now, granted, it's largely intramural right now. So they'll say, here's this problem, let's tackle it, and they'll put all their resources, which I don't think people understand. Their resources are considerable in regards to intellectual power and educational background and being able to have sophisticated responses. Their resources are very considerable now in 2020. And they have some relatively sophisticated responses. And so what happens is we need specialists now more than ever dealing with LDS folks. We need people with high-level understandings of philosophy. They have philosophers now. Blake Ostler, there's a long list, actually. There's a Mormon Philosophical Society. They have their own journals, and the quality is continuing to increase. Kwaku has tapped into some of that. Now, Kwaku doesn't know all. He's only been a Mormon for like 6 years or so. Kwaku's the guy I debated. Young guy. I am impressed with how much he knows in such a short time. He has tapped into some. Now, my guess is what's going to happen, unless God gets a hold of him, which we pray for. is he keeps on going. These guys are going to see him, and they're not going to do what he does because he violates a lot of traditional Mormon social norms. But a lot of Mormons still root for him, but they won't do the same thing. But I bet some of these high-level guys are going to see what he's doing, realize the value, get a hold of him and say, hey, here's this argument, here's this argument, here's this argument. And he's good at communicating these things. So I don't think people understand there's a lot there. So a lot of evangelical responses to Mormonism are based upon outdated ideas. Now, some stuff's never going to go away. They can't fix the conflicting 9 visions that Joseph Smith that are written the first account. And but they have sophisticated responses to them, though. They've actually tried to harmonize it similar in a way. I'm not saying it's the same thing as the resurrection accounts in the Gospels. They've taken a similar approach and actually used some of the same lines of thought and lingo and whatever to try to deal with it. So I just think people should be aware. And look, if you're really going to deal with it, you got to go all in. And we need more high-level specialists to deal with LDS folks, as well as on the ground as well. But a lot of what we've been saying and doing is based upon outmoded ideas. And I just wish people would see the lay of the land has changed a little bit more than we realize. And just making fun of them is just not going to cut it anymore. Because honestly, I just see a lot of that. Now, like I said, I'll get it in. Kwaku came at me a few times, so I came back. But when he laid off, I laid off. Because we can be cool. We can do this, okay? But at the same time, we've got to go past merely just that. But the thing is, a lot of them aren't willing to debate. A lot of these guys like to write. So they'll write journals, they'll write long blogs with 88 footnotes that half the time are irrelevant to what the main point of the paper is. They could try to drown you in footnotes sometimes as an operational maneuver to distract you from what's really being discussed. I've seen this happen. But there are some exceptions. And I just wish that Christians would kind of like take everything seriously and realize that, and be willing to be specialists in these areas, because that's what we need. We need more and more, in my view, apologetic specialists, and we need less general people. Now, it's tough because here I am supposed to be a specialist in Hebrew Israelites. I'm talking about Mormonism, right? It's hard, man. I'm interested in so many things, but we really do need more and more specialists. And so I am praying for a generation of thoughtful people who aren't going to compromise, who love the Mormon people, who become specialists in these things and really, really dig deep. And I'll stop talking there. That was sort of a long rant. Interrupt me anytime. I apologize, David.
Well, I know next to nothing about Mormonism, so if we're talking about problems in Mormonism, there would not be a lot for me to interrupt you on. So, do you think there?
More I could say.
Do you think there are some problems with Mormonism?
Yeah, there's massive problems.
Okay. If you were sitting beside a Mormon on a train and you could only share one problem with him, what would be your go-to problem?
I mean, I've got to share the gospel. The problem is not understanding the gospel. So, what I might try to do, depends how much time we got, is to try to put the pressure that LDS theology and really actually even LDS culture puts on the average Mormon. What I mean by that is this idea of, we're saved by grace, after all we can do. They say stuff like that. Put the pressure on them. Let them feel the weight of this idea of after all we can do. Because nobody ever does all they can do. And they don't do it right. Put the pressure of the law and upon sin upon them. If they can really see that, I think their eyes can be open to the fact they need a Jesus who is more than a means to an end. Because Mormonism in its essence, David, is a cosmic eternal prosperity gospel. Jesus teaches you how to become a god and have your own planet. That's what he is. You're not going to an afterlife where you worship Jesus. You're not even going to be on the same planet as him. He's over there where he is. The Father's over there where he is. And you, if you do your temple stuff properly and get exaltation, you're growing into a deity. And you're the sovereign of your own planet. Yeah, it'd be pretty dope. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Right. So putting the pressure, I think, of them thinking they're good. Because basically, Mormons look around at a decaying society and they're like, look at these Christians, look at this crazy culture. Everyone knows we're clean cut and good. We are. You'll find that. They need to really see God's holiness from the scripture and really see their own sinfulness and shortcoming. And if they can start to see that, they can start to really realize their need for a savior. So it's not about trying to make them feel bad or anything. But then again, yes, because we need that sense of, I have sinned in the sight of a holy God. So I would just say that would be really the thing to focus on, not the contradictions in the first vision or something like that right away. Just that, because now here's what's tough, David. Everyone listening, if you try to talk to your average LDS friend about the gospel, they have made a shift recently, starting at the highest levels, where they emphasize grace more. They emphasize grace more than ever. So you'll hear them say grace more than ever. They've taken a step back away from sort of legalist kind of perfection moralism, but it's still there. It's still present. It's still there. So it is tricky because you'll be speaking to a Mormon about the gospel, and they will sound like they are agreeing with you. And we just got to really keep on pushing, because sometimes you will witness to an LDS member, and at the end, there's this feeling of hopelessness you have. I'm telling you from my personal experience, where you're like, man, I tried everything I could to get this guy to see from the scriptures, and all of his answers were linguistically correct. The words that came out of his mouth were, but I know he defines all these words differently than the Bible does. And so you feel this hopelessness, because he is literally using, some of these guys, they literally will use the right words, but I don't even know if they fully realize, because they think they're using the right definitions for the words. I don't think they're all trying to be deceptive. I think they're feeling like they're using the right words with the right definition. So it's very difficult. So
no, there's
you have to scale the language barrier.
There's something similar, probably not to the same extent, with Islam, right? Like Islam will call Jesus the Messiah, and Islam will call Jesus the Word of Allah, and all these things, and they have no idea what this stuff means. And so, but what that also means is that when we're using these terms, they're not getting it, because they're seeing things through their Islamic glasses, and so they're misinterpreting. What people are saying. It's funny though. I was kind of smiling for a second, because when you started talking about, what'd you call it? What kind of prosperity gospel did you think?
Oh, I called it a cosmic prosperity gospel.
Yeah, I realize I'm an unstoppable fire hose of good ideas, but my good ideas come out so fast that I forget like 98% of my awesome ideas. And then someone will tell me about it 2 years later. Hey, when are you going to do that thing? And I'll be like, I don't even remember thinking that, but that sounds hilarious. How did I come up with that awesome idea, then forget it, but you remembered it, and so on. So anyway, one of the things I've been doing, one of the things I want to start is, when I think of an awesome idea, to just say it in a live stream, because then people will remind me of it like 2 months from now when I've forgotten about it. And then if I really want to do it, then I can do it. But you were talking about this prosperity gospel, and I was thinking, man, with Hijab and Ali Dawa and Adnan Rashid and Fareed Leaks and all these guys campaigning to have people deplatform critics of Islam, but then actually making us piles of cash, there could be, I'm not sure what to call it. It's not an Islamic prosperity gospel, but
well, they're not making me piles of cash, but go ahead, I'm listening.
No, but I could make a video where I talk about how to this new Islamic prosperity gospel. I'm not sure what to call it. Maybe you guys in the chat can come up with a name for it. But basically, I can say, this is how you get rich from these keyboard jihadis, right? So all you do, you start blasting away at their fake profit, and there's plenty there. Then they flip out and get you try to get you demonetized. But people in America, people in Europe, people in most non-Islamic places in the world don't like being told what they can spend their money on. And so when they see people trying to demonetize you, they're like, hey, wait a minute. No, you can't demonetize you. Here's $20, man. Here's $20. And so some sort of prosperity gospel there, where you got like your 3 rules of success, how to monetize Muhammad Hijab, how to monetize Adnan Rashid, because yeah. Anyway, guys,
I just put a link to a wonderful article on the verse I was just discussing, 2nd Nephi 25:23. My friend Aaron Shafawalev wrote the article for mrm.org. That is one of the best websites dealing with LDS theology, mrm.org. And Aaron Shafawalev is one of the younger guys who is really excellent at this. I don't know of anybody who has a better grasp of the gospel and who understands the ins and outs of not only the Utah kind of culture, but also understands better than anybody the history and philosophy. And he's just excellent. Everything he does, his channel is excellent. And so I just dropped that in there because that's the verse that speaks about after all we can do there. So I just wanted to drop that in there as well. There are some great resources, but the evangelical fervor to share the gospel with LDS folks has died down a little bit. And it's tough going. There is an older generation now of apologists, and a lot of them are sort of towards the end of their journey. So, Sandra Tanner, who's really the pioneer in all this, the Lighthouse Bookstore is not going to be around forever. We don't know for sure, but she's not going to be around forever. A lot of the kind of figureheads are older guys who used to be into it, like, say, James White. He doesn't really deal with this topic anymore. So there's just we do need new blood, fresh blood, and people who understand the internet. The LDS Church got on the internet early. Everything looks nice and is very functionable, and they are going overboard on YouTube. They are sinking major resources into some killer YouTube channels, and they're willing to do so even though sometimes their gains aren't that great. So they have some great YouTube channels, and just because of the nature of LDS stuff, they still don't have as many subs as you might think they should have. But you see the quality, and you see what they're doing, and you see really the compelling nature and how they've learned how to use YouTube. Kwaku is a perfect example of that. I feel like in the debate, because of what he has to defend, it's difficult for Kwaku. But you watch him as a YouTuber, and the way he is able to make, and I'm not trying to be rude about it, wholly unbiblical and honestly really wild ideas sound credible is fascinating to me. And so I think we gotta just take it all serious, just talking about magic underwear and South Park, those days got to be done, and the other thing is Mormons have learned honestly to kind of not take themselves too seriously. So I've been recently digging in to what's called Mormon cinema, and there's actually a genre called Mormon cinema, and it is not bad. They do a lot on small budgets. Napoleon Dynamite, now I know it's not a Mormon movie per se, personifies the sort of Mormon cinema attitude in a way. So my understanding is those guys are Utah and has a lot of those kinds, or I'm sorry, not Utah, but members of the LDS Church, or at least the guys who made it in those other movies. They have that kind of humor. If you notice, those movies are relatively clean. The movies that, Jared, I forgot his name right now, but that they made, the relative Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre, relatively clean. And there's that kind of attitude of we'll do a lot with a little, and they're really quite clever and very economic in how they achieve a lot of things cinematically. And they've even had some movies where they are portraying a lot of LDS characters a lot more three-dimensional in Mormon cinema. Now, granted, there's still, family stuff and all that, but they may be better than the Christian cinema. And, I try to give Christian cinema kind of I want to like it, and I do think there's been major improvements, but we all know there's also a lot of just stuff that's like, dear Lord. And I don't know, though. The Mormons might be doing better. They got some decent stuff going on there. And they even make quality music. In fact, one of the people on the thumbnail here, David, is James the Mormon. Now, he's since changed his name, but he is an LDS rapper. Now, he's no longer an LDS rapper. He's still part of the LDS organization, but he's getting away from having LDS themes as of last year, he said, in his music. But for a while, he was making stuff that was very BYU-friendly, very he has a song about the first vision. That's probably his most explicit kind of LDS one, but really high quality, good videos. He's a dope MC, good lyrics. I actually did an interview with him. It's actually called Interview with the with a Mormon rapper, and it's a sort of a heartbreaking interview because at the end he really just expresses his heart, and it's really just it's hard to hear in a way if you really care about people as you speak. You'll see what I'm saying, but. So that's all reality. So I'm trying to, in a certain way, break down some of the stereotypes. Now, I hope my LDS friends see that, by giving certain levels of credit to Kwaku and JTM, as he calls himself now. I don't know if he changed his name now. And I hope they're not mad. I put them on the thumbnail. I'll just blame it on David if so. And the other two guys, there are also two guys I've talked to, Jackson Washburn and McKay Jones. Now, McKay Jones is from another era of apologists, and I don't know if he's really in it. I think he's just more teaching German these days. But Jackson Washburn is another young, bright Mormon apologist. A little bit different than Kwaku. Kwaku, despite being modern in his outlook, is actually traditional in a lot of his theology, somewhat conservative. Jackson, a little less so. Jackson is definitely, though, a sort of a intellectual powerhouse. Young guy. And I've had a number of private conversations and public conversations with, well, not really private. When I say in the sense of we're talking, there's a bunch of people around. But we've talked a few times. Really bright kid, and and he's also on the thumbnail. He's done some apologetic things. His approach is different, but they both have an emphasis on millennial, and with Kwaku, it's almost Gen Z. He's very popular at BYU. But again, see, this is what I'm saying. People, I'm trying to break this down to you. I see people making fun of the idea of a Mormon rapper. You guys don't get it. These guys know how to do a lot with a little. And yes, not every Mormon rapper is good, but there's a lot of quality there.
Yeah, because
they know how to make films. You got to stop sleeping on the Mormons is what I'm telling everyone, and I don't feel like they're listening.
I'm just saying because we've never heard it, and as soon as you said it, I was like trying to think where would this even go? You know what I mean? Now you're actually a rapper, and you've heard this stuff before, so you would have it. But I'm trying to I'm thinking in my head, this Book of Mormon, it's as smooth as granite. Become an LDS, you get your own planet. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like everything I was thinking in my head was totally whack. You know what I mean?
Well, with JTM, he only has a few songs that really are very theological. Mm-hmm. His music tends to be more inspirational, maybe dealing with relationships. He might have a song about the BYU football team, like sort of a chant rally type song. He has a song about I think it's about drinking Diet Coke or drinking Coke or something, because that's the thing. Mormons, I think, have a stake in Coke. That's a big thing with it because they're allowed to have cold caffeine. It's just not hot caffeine. You know what I mean? So I think there's a song. So it's more like fun stuff like that, but high quality stuff. He has some songs that showcases sort of the Samoan or the island side of Mormon culture. Just look up some of his stuff. People will see what I'm saying instead of just all these jokes. Look up James the Mormon. Look up some of his rap. You'll be like, oh, okay, this dude's no joke. Okay.
How did you not bring some clips, man?
Well, I don't know. Every time we play stuff, we get hit with copyright. I mean, I can send you links right now if you can play a 30-second clip. That'd be fun.
No, I can't play stuff straight off the.
Well, yeah. What do you mean bring a clip?
No, if you send me a clip and I have a clip. Yeah, I can't play if you send me a link to a YouTube video, I can't play that because there's a way to set up my computer, but it's not set up. So yeah, it has to be an actual clip that I can play.
I got you. Just give me a second here.
You got some,
and I'll.
You got some dope rhymes.
I'll try to show a spot where you could even play. Yeah, let's see. But let's see. What's a good one here? Wonder if I should go with this one here.
Alexandra said lots of Samoans are Mormons.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it a few times. They've had some success there.
Yeah, with the global stuff.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna find the song. Go ahead. I'm gonna find you a song and I'll send you one that's a good one here. Just give me a second, and I'll kind of tell you where to do it here. Yeah, he's changed his name now to Please Stop James. Oh, is he taking down his old music? Oh, come on, bro. He might have even taken down a lot of his old music. Well, it looks like he's going through some stuff. Looks like he might be going. This is an older one, but this is kind of the most theological one. Whoa, it looks like he took it down. Your boy is taking down a lot of his stuff. Well, I'm going to have to do it off another site, but here. Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, man, that's a Muslim move, man. That's like Uthman burning all the manuscripts.
All right, here, I'm going to send you this joint, David, to your email. Is that where you want it?
I stay away from drugs, so don't send me any joints.
Okay. And maybe start around like 218, 220, something like that. And I think people will be, I don't know. I'm a strange mixture of personality. Like, I want to be able to have fun, so, I'll make some jokes. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to take this stuff seriously. That's why I like a guy like Kwaku. He can be a little rough and tumble, but he can make some jokes, and I think not to get his feelings hurt. But it's like a mix. It's like, we beam in about it. But like just the making fun of, and I could just tell a lot of people don't understand. My guess is if someone has a Mormon family member, if someone's lived in Utah or Arizona or Idaho, those people know what I'm talking about. And they're probably glad I'm talking about what I'm talking about. A lot of you I just can tell they don't know what's going on, and you just guys need to read some books. And you know what? Let me give you some resources here. While David's pulling that up, I'm gonna start off kind of now.
Wait, how am I pulling this up?
I'll just send you the YouTube link. You just go to around 220. Maybe go to around 220.
You sent me a YouTube link?
Right?
No, I can't. I told you I can't play anything that I haven't imported as a video.
Oh, you need me to download it and then send it to you?
Yeah. So don't worry about it now.
No, I could do it right now. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Just go ahead and talk. Just go ahead and talk. I have to concentrate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a few questions. Hey, I see everyone responding to a comment by Islam Critiqued and laughing, but I don't know what he said.
Repost it. Come on, people.
Oh. I found it. Keep in mind, YouTube censor that this is joking, but Islam Critique said the Jews don't pay nearly as well if you're critiquing Mormonism.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard to get. That's why everyone thought it was funny. That's right. See, if you're critiquing Islam, if you're going after Islam, you know what I'm saying?
If I would do that, I'd just be holding up a bunch of bills. People, subscribe to my Patreon, please. Patreon.com. Okay. And
Vocab Malone.
All right, I am sending it to you, and you have access to the actual video. And if you go to about like how
are you sending me anything? Oh, you sent it to my email. Okay. You sent me two. You sent LDS rap and then just rap.
Yeah, the second one I sent you.
Okay.
The attachment. All right, so this is from 2016. It's called Motivation. And I think this is one of the ones, he went high on iTunes for a while. He made some dents in the iTunes charts and stuff. And the reason I sent you this one is you'll be able to see clearly a modern sound, clearly quality. He kind of showcases kind of Utah Mormon culture unabashedly, which I like when people are honest and proud of what they are. Even if it's wrong, I kind of prefer that. So I like people just leaning in like, yeah, I'm a Mormon. So what? Let's do it. I kind of like that vibe or attitude. I can get with that. That's, again, what I kind of like about Kwaku. So this one is there. And what was interesting about this is he showcases a little bit of the, if you've ever been to a wedding, maybe with like a Samoan couple, when they do the dances and whatnot, and they have the certain paint and different things. He showcases some of that, so it's kind of a fascinating little thing. And the joint, man, it's got some. It kind of hits, And then so those are the four people on there. You got McKay Jones, who is a Mormon apologist, kind of from more like in the early 2000s at this point. I don't think he's doing stuff anymore. He used to write some articles and go to their conferences. They even have apologetic conferences. And then you've got James the Mormon, you've got Jackson Washburn, who I think he's got some debates coming up as well. And then you've got, of course, Kwaku as well, who's clearly sort of on the rise. You got it ready?
No, it says processing.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want, I can show you some resources. So right here is one I'm going to recommend right here. It's called the New Mormon Challenge. It is a thick book. I got it hardcover, Zondervan. What I like about this, I don't agree with every scholar in here. It's got some issues, whatever. one thing that's about it's a higher level of apologetic. So, for example, now you need some philosophy in your background to understand some of this. That's a fact, because there is a section that gets really heavy on philosophy, especially in dealing with Mormon worldview, pages 90 through 243. But J.P. Moreland has an amazing chapter responding to Mormon materialism. And Mormon materialism, as you heard in the debate with Kweku, is part and parcel to most of their worldview. Now, there is a paper out there by a Mormon scholar, I forgot his name, Brown, I think is the last name, called Mormons Probably Aren't Materialist, but all it does is showcase the diversity and the problems of having matter being ultimate. But J.P. Moreland's essay on this is it's so helpful. But again, if you don't have a little bit of philosophy background, that's kind of a chapter you might want to skip. Great work on monotheism and Christianity, the Book of Mormon as well. Got some top-notch scholars. And so this is really a book I recommend. It's kind of a book you go back to again and again because of the individual chapters that are so helpful. Are you got that up yet?
Yeah, I have it.
All right, you wanna drop it?
No, where do you want me to go in this video?
About 2 minutes maybe, and there'll be about a minute left in the song there. How much you want to play?
I have to click on it. We'll see how it starts off, and then I'll fast forward to 2 minutes in there.
Yeah, I got it. It's this James the Mormon rapping. I know where it is if you put it on.
I'm gonna click on it.
Maybe go 158, 159, because I wanted to get on a part where you can see the Samoans doing their stuff. That's why but also check out the music. All right, you ready? Let's do it.
All right, we'll see what happens.
That is it.
This whole thing's Mormon?
This is Joseph the Mormon rapper. That's the end of the song. I just played a little clip.
Yeah, that was
that joint's hot.
No, that was way better than the one I came up with.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
That song is hot, man.
Yep.
That ain't no joke. He's got a whole catalog of dope stuff like that. Why are people saying it's terrible? And you guys just must not be hip hop fans. The people complaining, I bet you just don't like hip hop fans. Every hip hop fan, don't comment if you're not a hip hop fan. Yeah, see, I do not like rap. Well, then I would block. That wasn't mumble rap. He's not a mumble rapper.
Music is of the devil.
You guys are irritating me, man. See, you know what? This is the problem.
I only like Gucci Gang. That's not Gucci Gang.
They look, man. I can't read these comments anymore, David. I don't know these people, man.
All right.
Well, I got other stuff.
Yeah, you want to get back to Mormonism?
Well, yeah, I'm just more recommending or telling you about some books. So
no, and by the way, all of that, even though people are like, why are you guys talking about rap? Why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about that? Vocab was making an extended point, which he condensed to Mormons do a lot with a little. And he's explaining how they're putting out movies and music and everything else, and doing and because we started off earlier, we were talking about Studio C, and these you got to really clean comedy is super rare today. And so to see someone build a massive channel out of it and do it extremely well, and have, I would say, a couple of the best videos in YouTube history. The Scott Sterling stuff, those, if I were to make, I'm not saying like top 5 or something like that, but if I were to make a top 100 list, these guys got a couple videos. I probably put the 2 Scott Sterlings in my top 20 list. So the point is, hey, as Vocab would say, hey, don't be sleeping on the Mormons here.
Yes, like seriously. We gotta. It's kind of simple, we gotta stop this. Let me just show you a few. What?
Frugal Finch said, "If it ain't Gucci Gang, then it don't schwang."
All right, so here's an interesting book right here called "Claiming Christ," and the reason when this is interesting, it's a Mormon and evangelical in debate. Now, I don't always appreciate the way some of the scholars interact with the BYU scholars. Sometimes it's not very representative of reality on the ground. And so you got to kind of keep that in mind and just kind of understand that. However, this is still a fascinating back and forth, and that's some fascinating stuff. I actually got this, and I want to thank. This is something that the supporters did help me get in preparation for the debate, because there's some interesting stuff in here about their stance on creeds and stuff like that, and that's sort of a newer resource. And in relationship to that, I actually picked up a Mormon book by Mormon scholars. It's called Prelude to the Restoration. If you go into Deseret Books, they have an academic section. Yes, they have a section filled with figurines of Lamanites and Nephites and Mormon missionary action figures. And I'm not joking, by the way. Yes, they have that stuff. But they also have biblical works and theology and philosophy and music you can buy and everything. I'm fascinated whenever I go to a Deseret bookstore. I'm just always fascinated. And here's this. Here's a Mormon scholar. And he had a whole chapter on the creeds, because Mormons have been very anti-creedal historically. And this is just this is a very interesting book, because it's actually chapter 14. All their creeds were an abomination. A brief look at creeds as part of the apostasy. John Welch. And a lot of these books, if you don't have proper training, they do have spin in them, so they can be deceptive to a reader who is not doesn't have some of the training to discern. And I'm not I do want to make that known, but this is higher level stuff than I think a lot of people are ready or used to. There's a ton of high level BYU papers online that you can grab as well. I mean, check this out. I guarantee most people don't know this exists. And this is another thing. I got to give a shout out to Liza J for making this happen. Okay. So shout out the Oxford Handbook of Mormonism. This is printed on Oxford University Press. Okay. Look, this is a nice, important 600-page book. Terrell Givens is the guy who's the main editor here, along with Philip Barlow. Terrell Givens is sort of the Mormon egghead of eggheads. The intellectual class love him. He has all the stuff published on Oxford. Again, how many people know BYU scholars are publishing on Oxford? Well, they are. One of the main books I listened to is called Wrestling the Angel in preparation for the debate. Fascinating, long, in-depth book. Yes, it has spin, but he's a scholar, and so he's honest enough a number of points that I actually found a number of helpful quotes from listening to this book by a Mormon scholar, because he's doing legitimate work as well. It's not just spin. He's doing valuable, contributive, scholastic work. The Neil Maxwell Senior Fellow at Brigham Young University, and the other guy is as well. So, like, this stuff exists. Then they have more lay-level stuff. Here's a Deseret book, 100 most important events in church history, and this is all just only about Mormon church history. That's the way they describe it. And so I'm just showing you a few things just to let you know there is a vast network of stuff out there now. It's just not like it was. And a lot of times, if you deal with LDS apologists, you've also got to be prepared to have some facility with Heiser stuff, because since the LDS folks believe in a multiplicity of gods, they misappropriate the divine council teaching and things like that Heiser promotes, such as in the Unseen Realm. They misappropriate it and try to utilize it, especially focusing on Psalm 82. And you gotta kind of have some answers and responses, because they will use this and catch you blindsided. Now, Heiser has written basically disparaging their use of his work. But you got to find this stuff to know what he says and know what's going on and why his interpretation of Psalm 82, whether you agree with it or not, you still need to understand, is not at all proper to utilize in a Mormon apologetic. And so that's important. But this is a lot more sophisticated stuff. They deny creation out of nothing. To be able to defend that, you need to have this. This is actually my favorite William Lane Craig book, co-edited with Paul Copan, who beat me in foosball once. Creation Out of Nothing. This is a great book. Totally slept on book. And there's other ones here I have, but I'm just trying to show some of the differences in what's going on now. I know Vocab is a closet Mormon. Mm-hmm. Why haven't you guys done much in pointing out the reasons Mormonism is false in this live stream?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Sometimes I like to take a contrarian approach, and the more I see people just hating on Mormons or making jokes, it makes me want to go the other way and kind of defend stuff so people understand. So I have sort of an educational goal as well. And I told David before, I was like, it's not just going to be a breakdown of all the issues with Mormonism. We could go deep. There is a lot we could do. I did some of that in the debate last night. But I also want to give people kind of a lay of the land so they understand things a little bit better as well, instead of just
also, or you are actually a closet Mormon. You were drawn to them with their awesome hip hop skills, and now you're trying to be slick on my live stream by convincing everyone to go over there for the awesome music and movies and wives.
I am, just so you know, David, I'm overstating my case a little bit. A lot of the Mormon rap is pretty bad. I remember my one buddy, he was a Mormon rapper, and he had this line I never forgot. I couldn't decide if I liked it or if it was corny, but he says this. He says, "The only time I cuss is when I focus." I thought that was the funniest thing. And it was such a Mormon thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, that was like such a Mormon thing to say. The only time I cuss is when I focus. So I am overstating the case a little bit. There's a lot of really cheesy movies. I just watched this one about two missionaries who get caught up with a mafia battle. And there's some low-witted mafioso guys who are on the bottom of the totem pole, and the Mormons come to them talking about the family and stuff. So these two mafioso guys think the Mormons are talking about like another family, like a mob family. So there's this supposed to be like a comedy of errors where they're all misunderstanding each other, and the feds get involved, and then people think the Mormons are feds, and so it's this whole thing. And I watched it and had a lot of dumb stuff, but by the end it was actually a lot better than I thought. But there's a lot of really bad, cheesy, silly, cringe LDS movies as well. And the Mormons watch and know what I'm talking about. But I just like to try to paint the other side, because I feel like a lot of people, the general culture, doesn't understand Mormonism. They think they're out of touch, like a bunch of homeschool kids or something. They don't understand. They're tech savvy. They're ahead of the curve. They're perceptive. They're hard work. Like, they're tough. I don't think people are understanding this. They don't understand Mormonism has changed, so we need to deal with it as it is now. And so I'm also trying to tell the apologetically minded people as well, and just kind of do that. Now, there are some interesting changes. There is a liberalizing tendency within the LDS, and there's a big thing of LGBTQ that's a real problem for them, and no one knows where this is going to go. There's this group of Mormons affiliated with something called Sunstone that is all about talking about the Heavenly Mother and alternative forms of sexuality and all kinds of really bizarre stuff. There are some interesting realities that will be interesting to see what happens with this. The RLDS, which it was the Reorganized Latter-day Saints, which is now not called the RLDS, it's called the COC, the Church of Christ. They're lesser known, but they're the folks who stayed behind in Missouri. They have almost become like a mainline liberal denomination at this point. They they still believe in the Book of Mormon, but they've taken a step back from its primacy, and they've actually joined the National Council of Churches. Now, that's sort of a mainstream Protestant thing, but of course they renamed themselves. They're not the RLDS anymore. There's not a lot of good books on them, but I do have some on them. Now, this is when they call it RLDS, but the information's still accurate, a lot of it. Now they're called Community of Christ, but they've taken a different path and they're a different way. And so there's a lot there. And so I encourage people to really get in this past the surface level and whatnot, because you got to be prepared. And so check out some of these debates with Kwaku and some of these other guys. You'll find them fascinating, especially the debates with Aaron Shafawala and Kwaku. Those are really good. But I'm checking out the comment section here. I'm getting distracted here.
You're checking out the comments?
Yeah.
If I were to post a comment, it would be on that. The only time I cuss is when I focus. Because that's just dope. You could do that all day, man. Be like, the only time I lie is when I rely on the Almighty. The only time I sin is when I reason.
Apparently, so you like this line. You like this line of puns.
The only time I steal is when I instill faith in other people with my apologetics.
There you go.
Yeah, see?
There you go.
I'm gonna steal this whole approach, man.
So Where are we at here with our time here? Let me give a quick shout out. If you guys want to see me debate more, check out tomorrow on Adherent Apologetics. I will be debating my seminary buddy Robbie Lashua on does Ephesians 1 and 2 does it teach Reformed theology? Oh, the Beginning of Wisdom says, I'm debating Jackson next week. Can you talk about him? So whoever the Beginning of Wisdom is actually knows one of the guys that's on the thumbnail. I can just tell you this, really smart guy, very perceptive, knows a lot about a lot of different religions and a lot of different philosophy, and knows a lot of the ins and outs and problems with Mormonism. He's aware of a lot of them. Has tapped into some of the sophisticated resources. But last time I spoke to Jackson, I don't know where he is right now in 2020 exactly with some of his theology. He was so close to, I feel like I'm going to misrepresent it, whatever I'm saying. So I apologize, Jackson. It's difficult to kind of pin down some of your views, okay? And I don't know exactly where you are now. It's like he wanted to be an ambassador and an apologist to the larger world as an LDS person. But some of his views were so muted and secularized that it was difficult to see how he was really representing in any way something other than a kind of this odd intellectual left-leaning segment of the LDS organization. Now, I don't know where he's went since then, but I don't find a lot of his answers at the time I was dealing with him very representative. And so you really have to ask him what he believes about a certain issue without assuming it. And you can show what he should think or what he should believe, but you really got to find out what he thinks on any given issue, because he will surprise you. And I can guarantee you he's probably thought about it. Really, really bright kid. I say kid just because he's younger than me. You know, he's a young man, but I guarantee you he's thought about it, but he probably has some off the beaten path answers. So you just really got to be prepared for that. But I found him to have kind of a relativistic, kind of pluralistic view. And a lot of us that were talking to him at that time said, bro, if you keep on going on the path you're on in 4 years, you're probably going to be an atheist. And he kind of laughed at that and said, no, I'm about to go on my mission. I'm about to do this thing. You know what I mean? But a couple of us kind of observed that and thought that. And that's why I was actually surprised to see him recently with these debates being scheduled, because I still had that as a mindset, like, this dude's going to go atheist if he doesn't turn a different direction. So I don't know exactly where he is now, but I can tell you, all I can say is do not underestimate him, but also don't box him in. And you're probably going to have a little bit of frustration trying to find out exactly where he's at with things, because it takes kind of a slow process of probing. So that'd be tricky in a debate. I'm shocked he's debating. Maybe he's changed some of stuff. He's like a dialogue kind of guy. You know what I mean? But in a way, I'm glad he's willing to step out. It's nice to see some Mormons willing to represent, because for the longest time, you just didn't have that. I think Walter Martin had a couple debates with a guy way back in the 60s or 70s or something like that, and then you just didn't really see much really where you would have someone, because it kind of violates Mormon social norms. The missionaries aren't about that life, and so it's interesting to see a few guys step up. I mean, regardless of what you think about Kwaku, kudos to him, willing to fly all the way to Phoenix, sit down with James White and Jeff Durbin and go toe-to-toe with them. I mean, at 20 whatever years he is, okay. You know what I mean? So there are some guys like that. And so all I can say is don't sleep on them, but also, is Vocab atheist or Christian?
Yeah, what are you, man?
Christian apologist.
What are you?
What is happening with these questions?
Yeah, but are you an atheist?
No one knows who I am on your channel anymore, David.
Are you an atheist Christian apologist or a Christian apologist? Hey, speaking of debate, Shah Saeed here said, any ignorant Christian want to debate me? Let's go.
Who said that?
Shah Saeed. Hey, Shah, why are you looking for an ignorant Christian? Why don't you want a knowledgeable Christian to debate? Why are you praying deliberately on the ignorant the way your prophet did in 7th century Arabia? Found the most ignorant people he could find to convert them to his religion. What are you laughing at?
He wants it to be an equal match. He wants it to be a fair fight.
Well, here's what's funny. Like a couple of hours ago, I posted a video saying anyone who wants to join us live, have a discussion, any Muslim on the planet, and guys, I'm serious about that. If Ali Dawah and Mohammed Hijab and Fareed Leaks and Sheikh Yasser Qadi and Shabir Ali all want to join us, and Zachary Naik all want to join us at the same time, I'll set it up. We'll set it up. That's how confident we are that the Quran affirms the inspiration and the preservation and the authority of the Jewish and Christian scriptures. So we're happy. And anyone who wants to join us. So notice, we announce, hey, anyone who wants to join us, starting Monday, we're going to do an entire week of live streams. Anyone can join us. And what's the response? Let me go in the chat section and try to pick an argument with an ignorant Christian. Wow. You guys are telling me like,
there's a lot of whiners here. You might have to retitle the show "Debating Mormons" or something, because people were looking for something different. Look, we're just trying to get you in here, and it's not David's fault. I told him I want to give people a lay of the land, and honestly, instead of just laying out problems with Mormonism, I kind of feel like I need to kind of like tell you guys more about it, because I can tell hardly anybody knows anything about it. I thought there was a greater knowledge of LDS like reality that I'm seeing in the live chat. I just, and I'm not even the expert on it. Aaron Shafawala, a guy like that, Bill McKeever, Eric Johnson, those guys that someone mentioned Sandra Tanner, but I'm shocked at, and I'm not trying to make you guys feel bad, but you guys don't know anything. Like, it seems like no one in the live chat knows anything about Mormons at all.
Yeah, but you can't be attacking them for that, because I don't either. So
yeah, but you're not saying dumb stuff like they are.
Oh, anyways. That's true. I do say some dumb stuff though.
Look, problems with Mormonism. We do it a quick version. They have a false alternative authority. Joseph Smith's visions and dreams, which are riddled with problems, plus the Book of Mormon, plus the Doctrine and Covenants. Not only that, they have someone who's supposed to be a living prophet, so they can get new revelation anytime. And yes, it can contradict previous revelation, such as if you're of African descent, you can't hold the priesthood. All of a sudden, now you can. Now, Mormons will say that was just a policy. They whitewash everything and change it. The reality was you could not. Just like Brigham Young said that it's always going to be the case that it's God's law that a black man can't marry a white man, and if they do, you got to kill him on the spot. Joseph Smith, the person who came after him, was Brigham Young, and he said stuff like that, and it's in the scripture. And that's a problem though with the Mormon. What is scripture? What is the source of authority? It gets very tricky with that. That's another problem. They don't stand on a square. You don't really know what you're dealing with. Mormonism is materialism in most of its forms. It has matter as being the ultimate. They'll say eternal. They don't mean eternal. Jesus has not always existed in the sense, in any real meaning sense. Sometimes they'll say things like this. He's existed alternity, but there was an eternity before this eternity that he didn't exist in. You actually get stuff like this because they don't define eternal the same. So you have a God who hasn't always existed. You have a God, for example, the Father, who was once a man on another planet that progressed to godhood. That means God could have hypothetically sinned and needed a savior himself. They want you to worship a heavenly Father who also was a man once in sin. And then his goal is to try to get you to be God as well. But if you don't get to progress to godhood, it's still okay. You can still have some other kind of good afterlife. Only a few people get cast out into outer darkness, and it's mainly apostate Mormons and really bad people, maybe like Hitler. Everybody else, like the Christians, we get to have a decent afterlife as well on Mormon eschatology. It's only a few people who are in outer darkness, and it's basically apostate Mormons. That's like the worst thing you could be, basically, or Hitler. I always do that kind of as the two. So the massive problems, wholly unbiblical. Deny the Trinity, deny what it really means to be God, because he's not God alone. There's an infinity of gods going all the way back. No one knows who the first God was. No one knows how he arose. You've got a problem of Joseph Smith making bad claims all the time. Not just the fact that Jesus supposedly said this stuff, but he claimed to have translation ability, and then he came to translate out of language that doesn't exist, and then he ripped off whole sections from Isaiah. So what's he translating there? And he did it with magic stones and a magic hat, a seer stone, and a hat that he looked through. He claimed to have golden plates.
How about these golden plates, though? What? Huh? What about these golden plates, huh?
Nice golden plates. Yeah, nice. I don't know what's going on.
Wood. D. Wood.
Now say the only time I cuss is when I focus.
The only time I... This your Twitter clip, ladies and gentlemen. The only time I cuss is when I focus. You happy now?
Yeah. Yes, I'm happy, bro. Hindu historian says that Mormonism is Mormonism isn't the worst religion to be apostate from. You are right about that.
Good point.
Right.
Good point.
Good point. You are definitely right about that.
No, and that ties into like I mean, people have been pointing out for years, ever since the Book of Mormon was, and I don't mean the book, I mean the musical. Ever since the Book of Mormon was put on Broadway, it's been pointed out. You can do that with Mormons because no Mormons are coming to kill you, but you could never have the Quran, the musical, on Broadway. Although, Vocab, we might want to do that. Yo.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be lots of venues.
No, hang on.
They're going to want to book that.
This is, yeah, D-New says I need to get some grills. Oh, I saw that in a mall I was in the other day. I was walking by, I was like, are those a bunch of grills? And yeah, the dude had a bunch of grills there in a case, so I could go get one of those for my Islamic prosperity gospel. Darn it, I'm an unstoppable fire hose of good ideas, and I just thought of one, and I want it on record. Oh, we have to go. Oh, look, we have to go. I'll cover all the tickets because people will cover all my expenses. We'll go watch the Book of Mormon and learn it really, really well. And then we'll make a parody version where it's about Muhammad and the Quran. But we've got so many musicians on our squad that we'll make it a hip-hop parody of the Book of Mormon, but about Muhammad and the Quran. And we'll have Muhammad up in there, Gabriel, all his early companions, all this stuff. We can do it, man. We don't have to get to Broadway. We just have to do it once on stage and have it well recorded. Then we put that thing all over the internet.
Yeah. Well, I'm already demonetized, so hey,
gotta do
it. Whatever, right?
If you gotta go with a smile. You know what I mean?
If you gotta go with a smile. And back to problems with Mormonism. The first visions have multiple problems. Wesley Walters is a scholar who's done classic work on this.
Hey, you got to hold it farther back because all we see is like one little corner of the thing. Now you got to put it right in front of your face.
New light.
There you go. That's how you put it.
On
New
Mormon
light
origins.
on Mormon origins.
Wesley Walters, anything by him is good. Joseph Smith added to Scripture with, so then you got the Doctrine and Covenants, for example, and the Pearl of Great Price right there. And then also there's something that a lot of people don't know about, Joseph Smith's new translation of the Bible. The main church tends not to use it unless it's convenient, but the RLDS Community of Christ has been using it as well. And so there's that. Joseph Smith was a false prophet. There's compilations you can find of his false prophecies. A famous one that apologists for the LDS organization like to use is that him predicting the Civil War. There's problems with that claim.
But there was a civil war.
Yeah, there was a civil war. Yeah, you're right. There was a civil war. Within the Pearl of Great Price, there's something called the Book of Abraham. And Mormons, what Joseph Smith said at the time, nobody knew how to translate hieroglyph, the Egyptian. And so at that time, he says he translated this thing from this document that he had bought from a guy in Kirtland, Ohio. But this became the Book of Abraham, which is this polytheistic document. But then we found, it's a long story, but found what he translated from. And guess what it turned out to be? Part of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So apologists have had to come up with a whole thing. By the way, this is something else supporters helped me get. I think Breakfast Gun, but I sometimes I lose track, so I might be saying the wrong person, so please forgive me. It might have been Dr. Funny, but I think it was Breakfast Gun, but thank you. With this, now they say, well, it's not translation in the way you think of translation. It was a catalyst that God used to inspire him to then do the Book of Abraham.
That's pretty
but it's
cool.
not a translation in a traditional sense. They'll say something like that. Or they'll say, well, that's the wrong manuscript, or we haven't found the right manuscript, stuff like that. But the Book of Abraham is a bombshell. And so now you'll hear LDS apologists say, well, look, let's not talk about the Book of Abraham. Let's talk about the Book of Mormon, because if that's right, then everything else is right. Why are you going to the secondary thing? That's a trick, though. Here's why. Because no one ever saw the golden plates that Joseph Smith said he translated from. The people who did say they saw it, the witnesses said they saw it in their spiritual eye, and some of them later reneged, yada, yada, yada. They went back up to heaven or something like that, and they seem impossible anyway because he says he ran through the woods with them, and they're way too impossible to carry. So the whole thing is fantastical about the golden plates with Reformed Egyptian, all that kind of stuff. So what you got with that is the Book of Abraham. We do have the document he's saying he translated. We have it. So we can do an objective test on his abilities as a translator. He fails the test. He fails the test miserably. He's got this scene with gods, and he says it's Abraham sacrificing his son or something like that. Even the pictures he gets wrong. He translates the same characters different ways. That's why they have to come up with this thing. Well, it's not actually translation. It's an inspirational text. Well, why do you have to spend all that money to, buy this funerary text so he could get the Book of Abraham out of it? Which is just a polytheistic document anyway. I see someone bringing up Native American DNA. Yeah, that's a reality too. Originally, the story is that Israelites left basically in submarines with compass. Compass didn't even exist back then. Came to the New World, all right? And after Jesus ascended, he actually went to America to preach to the Native Americans because they were actually Israelites. So the other sheep of Israel, the lost sheep or whatever that I got to go talk to, Jesus, that's actually Native Americans who were actually Israelites in the United States of America. So that's what Jesus did. Then what happens is some of them stopped following God, and the other half stayed righteous. The half that stopped following God turned dark, and then they had a big battle, and they beat the good guys who were white. And what happened is the very last one, he hid the record of their society and all these things that happened in a hill in New York. And then one day he came in spirit form as an angel, but he was a kind of a prophet warrior figure for his people. His name was Moroni. He came to Joseph Smith at his bedside and said, "Hey, there's some plates sitting out here. You go dig those plates up in this hill, Hill Cumorah, and you're going to find that record, and God wants you to translate it." And that's where you get the Book of Mormon. So we don't have those plates, but we do have the text now, because it's been recovered, that Joseph Smith said he translated the Book of Abraham. So that's why we focus on the Book of Abraham. It's an objective way to test his ability as a translator, and he fails miserably. So that's some of the problems, and that's dealing with the history. We could go on and on and on and on. I would like you to watch my debate with Kwaku and find out the problems there, because he does not have a Christian metaphysic in regards to eternality, in regards to immaterial and material, in regards to the category of spirit, and especially on the nature of God, as we discussed the triune nature of God. And I saw someone brought up the triune discourse, or the King Follett discourse. That was where Joseph Smith used a guy's funeral as an opportunity to unveil this new doctrine about a multiplicity of God stretching all the way back, not a Trinity. So Mormons are very anti-Trinitarian, very anti-Trinitarian. So the debate we had was about the Athanasian Creed. That's why I got the Trinity on my shirt. And on the back, if you could see it, it's got the Athanasian Creed on the back, actually. And so we discussed the Trinity, and it turned into a number of other things, but it's fascinating, including a small section on race. I didn't want to make it about that, but he kind of prodded me on that, and so I came back with a little shot. And we did have a little section on race because there's a troubling history there as well. So that's some of the problems. That was a quick rundown. Boom, 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 boom.
All right. Well, why don't you, and I can add a link in the description box. We should be wrapping up here in a second. Yeah. I should I'll add a link in the description box for anyone who came in a little late. Why don't you tell them what's going on tomorrow again? And again, I'll add the link right after we're done here.
Well, a lot of people, David, some of your fans hate me because I'm Reformed. I'm a Calvinist. Yeah. The thing is, I've never shied away from it. I don't shove it down people's throat. Yeah, me and David are cool like that. I don't shove it down people's throat, but I'm also not embarrassed. Mm-hmm. So I have a position where I don't want to beat people over the head. I don't need I work with anybody. Mm-hmm. I could just go along. I'm not about that life. But at the same time, I don't want to deny the convictions of what I have. But I just never been into debating other Christians, really. I don't mean having a conversation that's vigorous, but I mean taking time but there's this guy, he's a younger guy, and I've always appreciated the work he's doing. He's the one who does those Twitter competitions, adherent apologetics and the brackets and stuff, and he's younger, college kid. just really bright and really getting a start in social media apologetics and stuff like that. And I just give him a lot of love, a lot of props on that. And I kind of like said, you know what, I like this guy, man. I'm gonna try to promote him in the way I can and help him if I can. So he said, hey, you want to debate Reformed theology? And I actually responded to like, not really, but if you want me to, kind of thing, you know. And so he's like, well, okay, I got this guy, and he tells me who it is. I'm like, that's my old seminary buddy. I've had him speak at Doctrine for the Block, you know, some of the conferences we do. Robbie Lashua. So tomorrow I'm roped into this debate on, does Ephesians 1 and 2 teach Reformed theology? So I'm gonna have to say it does and try to be nice because Robbie's my buddy.
When you get crushed, are you going to abandon your theology?
Yeah, sure. If it's predestined for that to happen, I will.
Yeah, we do have a disturbing number of Reformed dudes on our squad. You're Reformed, Anthony's Reformed, Guillaume. Yeah.
We don't have enough, actually.
Well, yeah. If we had one more, we'd be you guys would go all like jihadi on us with it.
Sam, you, John, Adam, none of those guys. Who else is kind of in the squad? Oh, if you count Eddie Dalcour, that's the homie right there. But
well, that's what I mean. See that? Yeah, but the rest of us, we're not similar enough. We're not similar enough.
Yeah.
Like several of us don't care to get too specific on a lot of issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is your destiny. Hold on. Let me try to do effect. It is your predestiny. See, people. I see people in here. Calvinism warps the character of God. All right, that's fine. Look, so some people will never be down with me again, and that's just fine.
That's right. School them, everyone. School them.
I just don't take it personal because I'm just like, okay, whatever, cool. I don't even really want to. I don't think people understand. I'm not just like Reformed or a Calvinist. I'm also kind of a Calvinist in my attitude. I'm like, okay, well, if that happens, it happens. Okay, you know what I mean? So like, there's like, I can't be uptight about something because I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's that happened. It's like the old joke. You ever hear the one about the Calvinist who falls down the stairs? He gets up, dusts himself off, look back, and says, I'm glad I got that over with.
Yep.
I'm kind of like that.
Here's a quick comment here. G. Ray Brown says, Shah Saeed, who is the we in the Quran that stated they would cut Muhammad's aorta if he is a false prophet? So G. Ray Brown is referring to the fact that Allah often refers to himself as we this, we that, we this, we that. And guys, I just wanted to point out here, this is totally different note we're ending on here, but think about that because it's actually a hilarious point to bring up. Muslims do have an answer. They say that this is the royal we, the plural of majesty, that Allah, in order to show how majestic and glorious he is, he speaks about himself in the plural. And then Muslims say that and they think they've solved the problem. But notice the problem. Because notice you can point out this issue to Muslims, and then they have their canned response that they're going to give. But then you can draw their attention to a deeper issue, which is this. In Islam, they emphasize this total oneness of Allah, and they think that this is the greatest thing in the world. This being this essentially one. They think this is the greatest thing in the world. But Allah, over and over again, refers to himself as we. And our Muslim friends say that this is the plural of majesty to show how majestic he is. Well, what's assumed in that response? What's presupposed is that it's more glorious and more majestic to be plural. And so even though Allah isn't plural, he refers to himself in the plural because that would be more majestic. Well, notice what you've got there if you put these things together. Well, the greatest thing you could possibly be is this essential oneness. And yet, the most majestic thing you could be is plural. Well, guess what, Muslims? According to you, that's not your God. That is our God, though. So the greatest being there could be would be a God who is one in one way and more than one in a different way. Not according to us, according to Islam. That would be the greatest possible being. And that's not your God, Muslims. That's our God. All right. You ready to wrap it up, Vocab?
Somebody said I was bankrolled by European Calvinists. And I said, I wish.
Yeah, you were.
They're too prim and proper. They've totally disowned me.
They're slinging that cash at you.
They've totally disowned me. That's the thing, I like the fighting Calvinists, but not who just want to fight other Christians. I like the fighting Calvinists who want to fight bad doctrine and error. I just can't stand the Reformed impulse to sit around and argue with Christians all day. And I can't stand, the impulse to just have all these prim and proper categories and you can't bust out. I get tired of it. I'm not about that either.
I'll bankroll you. I'll bankroll you, Vocab.
Well, so I'm not bankrolled by a European Calvinist. I'm bankrolled by a Jesuit. You went to Fordham, a Jesuit school.
It's still funny how many people David, let me slam the Jesuits. I'll prove you wrong. Not a Jesuit. I went to a Jesuit school.
That clip's gonna go viral right there, man. The money talking about being a Jesuit.
All right, man. All right, everyone. Go ahead.
I don't. Just the reality is, folks. A lot of the stuff we do, especially in apologetics, where you serve the underserved, we want more people to care, and you guys are here, so you care. But honestly, there's a lot of people there's a lot of Christians and a lot of people in the world, and a lot of people don't care. The stuff we talk about and know is important. It's a lot of people just don't care. And so this idea that everyone's watching Hebrew Israelites and Mormons and even Islam, it's got more attention, and that's good. More people do understand and care. But even that, man, the church still be sleeping. And so really, man, it's a labor of love. I'm not trying to sound like we're all righteous and stuff, but you got to really love and care about what you're doing and the people, because you're not going to get much support from a lot of Christians, just frankly. This is my, and that when you come against bad doctrine, they're going to think you hate them, so they're going to attack you back, even if that's not your goal. And you just know you're kind of going to be in. And then a lot of the other apologists and theologians, since everyone has their little ideas, they're going to want to fight with you about anything they don't agree with. And you just realize this is not an easy road if you're really going to do apologetics and go after it. So, this idea of people bankrolling and all, it's so far from reality about what it really is you got to do. David, because you've been putting in work for a while, but I'm just saying people are funny.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, so you can catch that. I'll put the link where Vocab's going to be tomorrow. I should have unless a meteor hits me or something like that, I should have a video up tomorrow and then one on Sunday. And then Monday we're going to get into our series. And again, ladies and gentlemen, all 1.6 billion Muslims in the world are welcome to join us and defend what their book says about the Bible. Let's see if they can do it. Catch y'all next time.
Peace.